My name is Laura Letinsky. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and I live in Chicago, where I've been since 1994, teaching at the University of Chicago. The Indignity of Counting Spiders is my third exhibition at Document. The show brings together 5 photographs that I made a few years ago, in that they were very lush and very rich and full and teetering on a kind of brink of excess and restraint that is very much in dialogue with the ceramic works that I made through the pandemic. So one of the first series that I worked on extensively was Venus Inferred, and I started working on that in 1989 because I was thinking a lot about love, and in particular romantic love, and I ended up concentrating on heterosexual romance, interested in the kind of normative fantasy and the derivation from the norm, even when one strives for it, but also wishes to individuate themselves in particular ways. From the Venus Inferred work, I shifted to working on the still life. I wanted to move away from what started to feel like a kind of stereotypical mode of being in front of the camera for the people that I was photographing, and for myself included, to think instead about a first-person narrative and to look at the objects that we use to make ourselves, our home. And we think of home as being, again, a very individual, natural kind of space, and yet it's highly mediated through advertisements, through the sort of selling of this idea of home. And so that work for me was really a lot about aspiration and about reaching for something, which the title, The Indignity of Counting Spiders, is a kind of play on the purposelessness, perhaps, of beauty or of doing an activity, but the desire nonetheless to do it because there is some sort of pleasure in it. This is the first time that I've done that, and it's really the first time that I've shown these ceramics as a kind of entirety. But as I was making the ceramics, I realized a kind of similarity between the still life and the ceramics, in that both are about an aspiration and then an imperfection. And as I've worked on them, I've oscillated between a more austere, very sort of basic white porcelain material and leaving things unglazed. And the porcelain for me is really important too, because it's a kind of mercurial medium, and I make it quite thin, and I try and push it to the point of failure without actually having it fail. And just that idea of a material that responds to light such that you see it differently in different light is fascinating to me, because I also think about my photographs and the way that the camera is a very particular point of view at a very particular moment. And so I started doing work that builds on an idea of a collage, in the sense that I am cutting from magazines and cutting from existing imagery to put together my compositions. In other words, the way that we see the world is increasingly informed by the photographs that we've seen, and that's something that's really important in all of my work.